Former federal prosecutor and former FBI consultant Joseph Moreno joins me. I'm actually beginning to feel sorry for her. I mean, it's like she's, it's just like they hang her out to dry.
Well, I know I don't envy her at all, Greta, but I mean, the administration is so quick to kind of trot itself out and say we are being so cooperative, right? We're so transparent. We have nothing to hide here. So different than those awful.
Then
Trump
why did they
people.
wait 8 days for the first batch?
Well,
and why didn't President Biden on January 10th, when he's talking about that first batch, mention the fact that on December 20th they found more documents 3 weeks earlier in his garage?
Absolutely. I mean, that whole transparency thing falls apart with some rudimentary knowledge of what happened here, right? Even at the very beginning. Remember, when the first batch of classified documents was found at the Biden Penn Center, this isn't just some random misplacement of documents. It's a crime to have highly classified documents outside a SCIF. They should have called the FBI. They didn't call the FBI. They called the National Archives, which you covered earlier in your program tonight, right? The National Archives Inspector General's office. That office notified the FBI. That's when the FBI got involved. So right off the bat, the DOJ's involvement was held at arm's length by the administration. Second, to your point, in January, when we find out in the public, not because the Biden administration told us, but because CBS News broke the story. And even then, they told us about, okay, well, we found these documents at the Penn Center. What about the documents in Wilmington at the president's home? They knew about those documents at that point, and yet we in the public, we had to wait for it to get leaked in the press.
Well, you know what I don't like is, is that the White House knows what happened to those documents. And they say, well, we're going to refer you to the Department of Justice. They know the Department of Justice is going to say, it's an ongoing investigation. We're going to investigation for what? It's like an investigation where the president had the documents. It's not like we're pulling spies in from different places. I mean, why can't we know about this? And then you have the president saying on 60 Minutes, which I'm sure he really regrets, how could that possibly have happened? Well, that's the very question we have of him. How did you possibly do this? And it's like, what I don't understand is they're acting like it's some big secret that only the Department of Justice can know. Just tell us. Where were they? What did you do with them? How did you get them? Why did you do it?
I mean, Greta, I'm a legal guy, right? I'm not a public relations guy. But everything I can see here says, I mean, gosh, someone has to take charge of this White House and think about strategy, because they are coming off as so non-transparent, so the opposite of this image they're trying to project. And you're right, that pointing the finger at you call them and they'll give you information knowing darn well they won't give you
anything.
Of course they're not going to give you anything. So really, I don't understand it. The best thing they can do is just come forward, say what happened. They're going to have to eat some crow, right, because it's going to be humiliating because they've been pointing the finger at Donald Trump all this time. But you know what? They're only making it worse for themselves.
And you know what? And the other thing, too, is that, look, they are making it worse. I mean, when he said that comment about, well, the documents were in my garage in my Corvette, I'm sure his staff cringed at that. It's like having a witness on the witness stand that's 30 feet away and you can't do anything about it as the person says something. But the other thing is that when he says he doesn't have any regrets, and then he says he takes it seriously. Well, you've got to have some regrets. If nothing else, you have to feel some regrets that you got caught with it. But he needs to show some humility that. He can't say he takes it seriously and say he doesn't have regrets.
Greta, I mean, it bothers me to no end. Look, I've served in the military, I've served in the Justice Department, I've served in the FBI. Any entry-level individual with a security clearance, if you take classified documents home, even with no intention of doing anything further with them, you get fired. You lose your security clearance. You might get prosecuted. So for the President of the United States to sit there and say, no big deal, I have no regrets. How can people look at that and not be irate with that?
It's sort of interesting, our relative experience, how we're looking at it differently. You're scandalized about the classified documents, where I think, this is Washington, everything gets classified, and people are not that attentive to important things. The thing that bothers me is just tell us. I mean, quit playing with us. The White House needs to be transparent, and then that'll be the end of it. He doesn't color within the lines, and neither did Trump on his documents. But to make us sort of race from the White House down to the Department of Justice, have Justice say we can't tell you, and they say we go whack what the White House said that we should ask you. I mean, stop that.
There's another angle here, though, too. They're the victim of their own position because the fact that they left the Trump investigation out there. They have known for how many months now what happened down in Mar-a-Lago. Either charge former President Trump or don't charge him. But they wanted to keep it out there. They wanted to keep it open. Will they charge? Won't they charge? If they had simply shut down that case, as we all know they're going to do, they would not be in such a tough position now because they could say with a straight face,
there's a profound difference. President of the United States, which Trump was, had the documents, can declassify.
Absolutely.
It's actually legally very different that a vice president had the documents, and that's an important distinction, which is why, I don't even know why they were thinking of trying to put a special counsel on Trump. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Anyway, Justice Moreno, always nice to see you.
Thanks, Greta. Always a pleasure.
Still ahead, former President Trump has to pay a lot of money. To whom and why? That